Well, it's a playoff game day, folks. And later on tonight, Toronto FC will take on Nashville. For the first time in club history, we could not be more excited to get you set for that first round matchup here on Waking the Red Weekly, presented by Footy Talks. We'll also look a little bit around the league at some Canadian soccer headlines and plenty more. Basically, we'll just see how much stress we can put on Jeff on a playoff game day as he scrolls across his scarf there. No guests on this week's show, which means we'll have plenty of time to get your questions, banter, comments. Anything you want to put in the comments, feel free to reach out throughout the show. My name is Mitchell Tierney, editor at Waking the Red, joined by managing editor Michael Singh. How you doing?
Hey, Mitch, I'm doing well. And, I don't think it's just me, you, Jeff, who's excited for this one. I think all of TFC Live is excited for this one because, ever since last night, I felt there's been a buzz around that. And, we're going. It's game day finally. And let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, Jeff already getting shout-outs for the scarf. We are, of course, also joined by our own Minister of Culture for Waking the Red, Jeff Nesker. How you doing, Jeff?
I was practicing that for altogether far too long, so I hope I did all right.
Yeah, no, it was pretty good. I'm impressed.
Yeah. I think I have a new career as a hand model.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. I'm going to put it away.
Hopefully that won't be the entire show. We'll just see Jeff pushing the scarf across. But as we said, it is playoff time. Obviously, been a pretty great MLS Cup playoff so far. Before we get into Toronto FC Nashville, guys, what have been your highlights so far? And, of course, why is it New York City versus Orlando City?
Guys, is that the gold standard now? Does that better TFC versus Montreal Impact 2016, sorry. I mean, it was basically both legs in one. Like we had Linegate, they had whatever the hell that penalty shootout was. And let's not forget about Rouen and the case of the wheelchair, which I don't know if I've ever seen before, a player faking an injury to the point that they were bringing a wheelchair out to sort of finish the long con. That game was absolute mental. That game was insanity. Just nuts.
Yeah, Jeff, I think he pretty much wrapped it up perfectly there. Just absolute nuts. A player going in net to take penalty. Like there was a substitution that was going to happen and then it didn't. There was just so many times where like MLS pump faked us and it just added to the overall, excitement of everything because that is MLS at the end of the day. Come on, that's perfectly on brand. So that was honestly comedic to a certain extent. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the sub goalkeeper, they sold out of kits already, and if they don't make a scarf that says "Papi, I can do this," then Orlando has no business having a marketing department. That game was insanity. I mean, we're also forgetting the Nani tummy rub, like he was explaining Rouen's industry to Alan Chapman by virtue of some deep tissue massage, which I thought was pretty hilarious.
That was written Thursday when Nani went up to go take that final penalty, and they had the player in net, and it's the best player on Orlando, obviously stepping up. That something's going down, and
yeah.
Obviously, the player comes up with a huge save. It was a lot of fun and honestly set the tone for what has been an overall just exciting MLS Cup playoff so far.
Yep, absolute chaos.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's not the only game. Of course, there's been late goals throughout. There's been a lot of goals in general. So, been absolutely fantastic playoff so far, and we're hoping that'll continue tonight with Toronto FC and kicking off a triple header, of course, of games. There's so many things to talk about as we get into this game, but I think the first and foremost in terms of intrigue around this game is the fact that these teams have never played before, and that, according to our Martin Bailey, has never happened in MLS history. Two teams meeting for the first time ever in an MLS Cup playoff match. So, what does that do mentally for these two teams going in? They've obviously done an insane amount of homework on each other, you'd think, but they also at the same time don't have that firsthand experience that you usually expect going into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. I think that tips in Toronto FC's favor a little bit. I kind of touched on it before just because TFC were in that sort of slump where they had one win in their last four entering the postseason. And, the fact that they're now going to go against a team that's unknown, it's another reason why they can just wipe the slate clean. and start fresh here in this postseason. So if we're basing it off, two teams we haven't seen before, we're going off reputation too, right? And who has a better reputation? Toronto FC, the mighty juggernauts who have been to the MLS Cup three times in the last 4 years, or Nashville FC, the expansion side who had an up and down season and found their groove towards the end of the year there. Again, that's got to be Toronto FC's edge, and I think Nashville are going to set up this match. They're going to sort of park the bus because of that. Because of what Toronto FC brings to the table, just on paper, and I think we're going to see Nashville counterattack versus a lot of times teams have been pressing TFC of late. So look for that in this game too. So what do you guys think about this one?
This probably won't be. This is absolutely not going to be the first and only time that we quote your fantastic Notebook article that dropped on Waking the Red this morning. But it's also an advantage to TFC because, to paraphrase you, what version of TFC are we going to see? Extend that to what version of TFC is going to show up for Nashville. If they're game planning for the TFC that we've seen over the last month of the season, and, TFC comes out looking a lot more like the TFC we know and love, pray for Nashville. So absolutely.
Yeah, we'll get into it a bit in the Toronto FC injury update in terms of which players are coming back. But one of them that I can tip the fact that he is coming back and expected to be back is Pablo Piatti. And, this is a massive game for Piatti because look at what happened to Toronto FC in MLS Cup last year, playing a very similar, Nashville's not nearly as good as, that Seattle Sounders team was, but they're going to play that very similar style to what foiled Toronto FC in last year's playoffs. And after that game, everyone was calling for one more, creative attacking player to be added to the Toronto FC side that could, break open a team. And obviously Piatti's not going to do that with his dribbling ability, but what he will do is combine well down that side with Pozuelo, combine well with the other attackers to create more opportunities. So this is a big proving game for Pablo Piatti to prove that, he is that designated player that Toronto FC have been asking for.
Yeah, because that is a question mark still at the end of the year is Pablo Piatti's contract situation. Do Toronto FC, I believe they do have the option on the year, so do they bring him back next season as a designated player? Is there a possibility that his contract's worked out in a way where they can buy him down, he comes back as a TAM player? All these are questions marks that are going to be in Bill Manning, Ali Curtis's mind as they watch tonight's game because Pablo Piatti, he's not on the injury report, so we'll see what sort of role he does play in this game. Is he going to start? Is he going to come off the bench? We don't know what limitations he has on him right now. But hey, it's exciting just to have him back in the mix because he is the team's best player, best winger. He is the team's most dynamic option, on that wing, especially when he can link up with Pozuelo. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see.
Two comments here. First from our friend Gav across the pond. I have to disagree completely. Nashville have absolutely nothing to lose. They will come out and it will be up to TFC to set the pace. It's a one-off. History doesn't count. This is as close to the FA Cup third round as you can get. I think that's a fair point. I mean, Nashville kind of bossed Miami, and they got a lot of joy on their attack. So, considering that they're essentially playing with house money, who's to say that they won't come out on the front foot?
For sure. That's definitely the other side to the question. And I just think based off reputation, again, just going into this game, I think TFC have the mental advantage, at least. Just speaking, again, if you listen to Nashville's press conferences, they're being asked questions about Toronto FC's offense, how they can, stimulate that, how they can, slow that down, how they can, handle a player like Ayo Akinola. Vice versa, the questions for Toronto FC are being asked personal questions like, how can you do this? Are you guys going to overcome this? How is, your mentality? I think that just sets the tone for where both teams are right now in terms of their soccer history and heritage. And that's all you can really lean on going into these two games because like these teams haven't played each other in the past. I do get that shout though. Like Nashville does have nothing to lose because they are the underdogs here in a sense, but TFC, again, what we're saying is TFC aren't the underdogs, in my opinion.
Right,
yeah, and
right.
I think that Nashville performance against Inter Miami for me had a lot more to do with the problems Miami have had versus, anything specific that Nashville did in that game. Obviously, it was a good performance, but, we can talk about a Miami side that obviously didn't have a lot of their key players. And even, from an expansion standpoint, what an interesting game, seeing those two first-year teams get to match up against each other, and maybe a little bit of a lesson to expansion sides, because obviously they were built in very different ways. Miami going out and grabbing all those flashy, European stars versus the Nashville team that's been built around guys who have proven in MLS. You talk about Dax McCarty, David Akam, Anibal Godoy, Lovitz, even obviously MLS Defender of the Year, Walker Zimmerman. So then you add in, a couple of other guys like Leal and Mukhtar, and all of a sudden you have at least a solid enough side. And, I think that's obviously been the difference between Miami and Nashville this year, and why, when all the hype was around Miami coming into the season, it's actually Nashville who, is in the first round of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's unfair to say that was a two teams of equals. Miami was missing half their squad for various reasons, and a lot of their attacking pieces. But Blaise Matuidi was invisible, and when you did see him, it was usually because he was getting dispossessed or just torched on somebody's run. So he didn't look very good out there. I don't think we can sleep on Nashville, though. The other comment I wanted to raise, and this is sort of circling back to Piatti, was what Ivan said. He's already proved he's worthy of a DP, but go on. There is precedent for this, buying him down to a TAM contract. Obviously Victor Vasquez is the example that we all remember. He's a team player. I think he's found his happy place in Toronto, and I don't necessarily think being tagged as a DP moving forward is potentially important to Piatti for his ego. I think he would be just as happy as being bought down to TAM as he is right now.
That's not the question, though. Is he worthy of a DP?
Absolutely.
He's worthy of being a designated player in this league. That's what you've seen. Keep in mind now, next season, there are rumors that an under 23 designated player is going to be mandatory of one of your three designated players.
Right.
So is he now worthy over of being, your over 23 designated player, one of two of them? Is he worthy of that?
Not at all, because we wouldn't qualify for it with But
that's not the question. Is he worthy of it?
What do you think, Mitch?
It's tough. I don't think he quite gets there, and I think it's just Toronto FC. I think it's because you have Josie, who's taking up a designated player spot and hasn't really been available or done much this season. Then you really need that other designated player to be stepping up offensively in a slightly, more tangible way maybe than Pablo Piatti has. We talk extensively about all the things he does off the ball, and obviously those are critical to what Toronto FC has done. But in this league, you want your designated players, especially again after so many years when they've had Bradley as a designated player. You need at least two of them contributing offensively. And Toronto FC, in some ways, have had Pozuelo doing that in a big way this season.
All right, and that I think that you hit the nail on the head there. I think you said the word tangible production, and if you speak to Toronto FC's president Bill Manning, he'll tell you the exact same thing, because he said that about a month ago when he was asked about Pablo Piatti and this current situation, and he was impressed with what he's seen from Piatti, and as has everyone else. Piatti's been absolutely fantastic. He's been our best winger, as we've constantly said, but he also mentioned how there has to be some sort of tangible production there to back up that price tag of being a designated player, because you can only have so many. Piatti has sort of, in a way, he has lived up to all expectations. I just think I'd like to see a little bit more tangible production, goals, assists out of him. For me, he's answered that question of whether or not he's healthy enough to stay on the field to, prove that value. He's done that. Even though we are dealing with another injury here, I think his run throughout the season, playing games, every game at the MLS is Back tournament, it shows that he's put his injury issues, I think, behind him. It's just a matter of what he brings on the field, and if we're talking about two designated players, not three, I don't know if Piatti makes that cut for me, because I'm looking at the player of caliber of Alejandro Pozuelo, and that's my sort of bar, especially moving forward.
Yeah. No, I think I think that covers it well. I think we've talked at length about how important Pablo Piatti is to this team, but in some ways that's almost more because he's the only supernatural winger on this team versus otherwise. But let's get into our injury update, because I think that's going to be very big for this playoff match. And before we get into the Toronto FC one with Michael, I think I quickly wanted to mention a big Nashville injury, which is Annabelle Godoy, who went off during that last game. And that could be big, because I believe he was second in MLS in passes completed this season. And for a Nashville side that, doesn't have maybe a ton of possession, missing a player like that's going to be pretty big for them, especially, when what Toronto FC can do in that midfield.
Absolutely. It's definitely it goes under the plus column for us towards 6:00 p.m. tonight.
Yeah. Well, then Michael, let's get into the Toronto FC updates here, because there are a lot of them, and as I understand, most of them are pretty positive.
Yeah, for the most part. Wow, even got my whole name at the ticker at the bottom there. Jeez, nice little touch, boys. So let's start. Obviously, the good news is the people who aren't listed on the injury report heading into this one, and that's Pablo Piatti and Richie Larea, and also Alex Bono, if we want to throw his name into there as well. So Larea, who left last match against the New York Red Bulls holding his groin, he came back, kind of tried to play through it, but we were told after the match it was kind of precautionary that he didn't. It looks like he will be good to go. To what extent, again, we don't know. Same thing there. I'd already talked about Piatti and his availability today, so that's exciting. Altidore, Ozo, both should be gearing for some more minutes. We can talk about how they'll sort of maximize that usage later, but again, that's positive news for TFC to even have them at their disposal. The two people who aren't going to be available for today's match, according to the injury report, are Marquis Delgado and Justin Morrow. So still two key veteran pieces to this team. It's kind of weird calling Delgado a veteran because he's 25 years old, but those two guys won't be available at TFC today. So that we'll have to have some players step up in their absence. But TFC have a lot of depth. We've seen a lot of different players step up this season, and it's playoff time. The time has come.
Do we have any idea of what Marquis did to himself?
I'll have to go back and honestly check my notes, but I don't want to say a certain area. It's somewhere in the leg area, and I remember them saying he had to get more than one MRI on the problem. Yeah, so I know that's at least the case of it. To what extent, again, I don't know. I said like a month ago on here that I was worried about Delgado's injury just because of how sort of hush-hush and sort of, noteworthy that second MRI was. So we don't know what I do. What I will say is Vanny said everyone is close. So if they're not there, they're getting there. So I don't think this is the end of Marquis Delgado's season, but if TFC obviously move on, but he won't be available for the next match.
Yeah. This is also the time of year, of course, to play coy with injuries, because you want teams game planning for literally everyone you have. But
true enough.
But we'll see from there. I do think, similar to how Godoy is a big miss for Nashville, Marquis Delgado is definitely the biggest miss of that for Toronto FC, just because, especially against a set defense, Marquis' ability to quickly progress the ball, you're going to miss out on that for sure. There's no player in the Toronto FC team who quite does that like he does. So there's few players in MLS. In fact, I was looking at his numbers this week, and in terms of progressive passes, Marquis up there with the best in the league.
He led the league before he went down by a long shot in passes into the final third, but it wasn't even close.
Yeah. So probably if you look, I couldn't find the per 90 stats, but probably if you look at those, Delgado would be even further up the table there. So certainly a player that Toronto FC are going to be missing in a big way, but huge to have Richie back. We talked about Piatti. What is that? Marquis progressive passes Delgado. That is incredible.
Yeah. Kevin's getting in there with the zingers. This is awesome.
Yeah. Love the ticker. But yeah, I think Richie coming back is huge for kind of similar to the Piatti thing. Having him having another player with the ability to break down set defenses, and we all know Richie's far and away the best dribbler on Toronto FC. Well, okay, might be Jaden Nelson, but he's far and away the best dribbler on Toronto FC, who's probably likely to start this game. I think that could be huge for Toronto FC, and obviously having him back, and the more attacking options you can have against a side like Nashville, the bigger.
We keep dancing around it, boys. Let's. What are we thinking starting lineup?
Oh man, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I'll start just because I wrote about this a little bit in my notebook, and I'll get the elephant out of the room. I don't think Josie Altidore should start this match. I think he should come off the bench in place of Ayo Akinola if necessary, because I think Ayo Akinola has earned this start. I think it's quite clear that the two of them, when they're on the field together, TFC's not at their best. We can look no further back than their last game against the New York Red Bulls, when Josie Altidore checked in for a winger in Tsubasa Endo. TFC had no chances after that. Like they weren't even close to cracking that goal. So I just think they're too like for like. They occupy the same space. They try to do the same role. And I honestly think at this point, Ayo Akinola does it a little bit better than Josie Altidore does because of the movement that he brings. So I'd start Ayo Akinola up top. Obviously behind him, I'm going Pozuelo.
Number 10, where he belongs.
Number 10, I'm going Pozuelo where he belongs. Absolutely. Now it becomes a question of availability. If you're assuming Pablo Piatti is healthiest enough to start, he obviously gets that starter right wing. If he doesn't, I'd turn to Nick DeLeon. Where do you guys see that? Do you guys disagree? Agree?
No, I agree with you. PP or DeLeon, absolutely.
Yeah, I think DeLeon might start regardless. He might be that left winger for me if obviously Delgado's out. So if Piatti's in the lineup, then. So
Okay.
I agree with that. I agree with that too. Either way, DeLeon starts.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So who's in the middle?
So your center mids have to be Bradley and Ozo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have to be. The question now is,
And you've got DeLeon.
I'll throw this out there. Do you move Ozo up to your left wing
To get Prizio in to start?
to get Ralph Priso in for the start, or do you just save Ralph Priso as an option off the bench for if you're Greg Vanny? Because Priso has shown recently he's up there and he's ready. It's a playoff game. I don't know if that now's the time to sort of let him loose.
Well, I mean, are we starting Richie, right? Right now we've got DeLeon potentially on left and right mid, right? So, do you know what I mean? And we've got Oso potentially on left mid and DeLeon, right?
Mhm.
I'm writing all of this down.
So let's just assume center mids. We got Bradley and Ozo as our center mid. Pause as our number 20. I think those are shoe-ins. We can pretty much say.
Yeah.
Your striker, I think Ayo Akinola is a shoe-in.
Mm-hmm.
Do you start Josie up top with Ayo,
No.
or do you? Let's assume Pablo Piatti's on the right wing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm assuming.
Do you start Nick DeLeon on left wing, or do you start Josie up top with Ayo?
I start Nick DeLeon on left wing. We know that's the system that Greg Vanny wants to play. And the thing that I like about that too is we know those two guys can interchange. So if you're not getting the looks you like for Piatti on that right side, then you flip him over to the left. If you same thing with DeLeon, you can switch that up. And again, I personally think, and we haven't seen these teams play before, but I think this game might come down to whether or not Toronto FC can unlock Nashville. And the more flexible options you have like that, the better.
Mm-hmm.
And DeLeon scores some screamers when they refuse to defend him for some stupid reason.
Mm-hmm.
But what about Jaden? What about Mr. Nelson on the left?
JPN, I've been preaching this for
I read your article. That's why I brought up his name.
It hasn't been coming to fruition in a regular season game. I don't see it happen in a postseason game. Although Vanny did give him his debut at the MLS is Back tournament round of 16.
And we talked about that with such glowing enthusiasm, if I remember. So.
Different circumstances.
So, but he's on the bench. We got Jaden
on the bench.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely. He's one of my first options off the bench if I'm Toronto FC.
Okay, so let me call the back line. Gallagher, Mavinga, Gonzalez, and Oro.
I'm going Richie over Aro.
You don't want
so,
a super, you don't want a super sub Richie.
No.
Remember that Spanish, that Brazilian Spanish connection on the right hand side.
Oro's starting this game. It's just a matter of whether or not Richie or Gallagher starting, in my opinion. I'm not sure if Oro's going to start on the right or the left.
Okay.
But Oro's starting this game. It's just a matter of, is Richie fit enough to start this game, or does Vanny want to use him as a super sub, perhaps? Because Richie obviously, he came off as injured in the last match.
He's got groin problems. Yeah. I would save him. I wouldn't start Richie. Not when you have a capable left back.
Fair enough. Then. Okay. Yeah. I can get behind that. I actually do think Gallagher though is the one you have to start, because I think defensively he's the most defensive minded of the three, and I think again against a counterattack, I would want Gallagher back there every time. I think there was a stat that Toronto FC still haven't lost with him in the lineup, so.
I think they've conceded just one time with him on the field, actually.
Yeah, that's a real small sample size, though.
It's a small sample size.
9 games isn't horrible. I mean, some of us are probably
Has it been 9 games? Holy crap!
It's something.
Holy crap,
yeah,
he's played 9 games, and he's never even set foot in BMO Field yet, which is so 2020.
That's an interesting one, though. It's like I don't know if TFC's best starting 11 though includes Tony Gallagher. I still think it's Larray and Oro if everyone's healthy. And I do hear your point about Gallagher, and he has been great, but I just think those guys are different quality. That's just my personal opinion, but it's really a good problem for TFC to have, and opponents are going to be struggling to game plan against this, because obviously Greg Vanny loves to game plan around Richard Larray and freeing him up. The fact that we don't even know what moment Richard Larray is going to be playing, which side Larray is going to be playing on. That's a great, kind of deck of cards for Vanny to hold there heading into this one.
You got to put him on the bench. This is a team we're going to have to break down. We need his we could potentially need his fire in the second half. So I think it's too much of a ace. It's too much of a trump card. You got to keep that aside for when you need it, especially in this kind of game. So we got Tony G, Christmas Finger, OGCB, and Oro Jr. And in goal, Bono.
Yeah,
I think that's the most obvious of any of these. We know who's going to be in net.
And just one more thing on Larray, just coming off the bench there. He's proven to us every single time. Like, I can't think of a time where he's come off the bench and hasn't, at least made a difference in the match. So if we're worried about, kind of not giving him the full opportunity to do so, like he doesn't matter how long he gets, this guy will go out there and he'll make a difference. So I love him as an option off the bench, even though if you ask him, I'm sure he'll tell you that he wants to start.
Right. But, so we're leaving some weapons on the bench. We've got Josmer, we've got Richie, we've got Ryan, everybody's favorite Nelson, Ryan Nelson, or Jaden Nelson. Oh my God. Who else? Oh, we got Tsubasa on the bench, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, Gavin is saying Endo to start, and I know Michael devoted many paragraphs to why that should not happen in this game.
Listen,
but you did preface it with the Endo experiment is over, which I took a bit of umbrage with at 8:00 in the morning.
The end of the Endo experiment.
Yeah,
I loved Tsubasa Endo and what he offered to this Toronto FC team when he was first brought into the club, because he was different. He was something this team didn't have. This league almost lacked. It was people who could play in between the lines. And he was a winger who could do that. He was kind of that hybrid of being direct and he could play in between the lines. He's a smart player. But fast forward now, we're in 2020, and I think that there are players now who are way more capable of making a difference in a match that Toronto FC possessed than Tsubasa Endo. And I'm looking at, Jaden Nelson specifically. He's a game breaker. I think Tsubasa Endo, he's the product of when Toronto FC are playing well. Like he'll kind of stand out to you when the team's playing well. They're not playing well. He doesn't move the needle enough for Toronto FC. So he's kind of a safe option for me. I think TFC are sort of past that point because we have better options. Just who can just make a difference there on the wing. And that's just my personal opinion, because again, Endo he's someone we saw what can happen when he does get going in the postseason, because he was great last season.
Yeah,
he was great
yeah.
in that postseason run.
And I take a little bit of umbrage with your point that he only plays well when the team around him is playing well, because I remember when he was tearing it up for TFC2 and the rest of the team around him was absolute garbage.
Different level, though.
I know it's a different level, but I do, I wanted to bring that up. But anyway,
No, that's fine. I'll counterpoint to that, just because Mitch said it's a different level. Like, he's not a game breaker at the MLS level. He's 27 years old. We know what Tsubasa Endo is. Tsubasa Endo isn't going to go out there and he's not going to surprise anyone with a crazy performance. But yeah, I think Gavin makes a good point too. Like, he's saying right now, you have to play the occasion. You need experience.
Yeah.
There are players.
So no Jaden Nelson is essentially.
Yeah. At what point do you give Jaden Nelson a playoff game then?
Well, we already did. We already did.
Okay, come on, like a real playoff game. Like, I'm not saying start and go throw him at the Wolves, but I am saying if TFC need a winger in the 70th minute and they need some fresh legs, I don't think you turn to Tsubasa Endo off the bench as your first winger option. I think you turn to Jaden Nelson.
Can we do a poll? Can we do a poll?
I would love to do one. I want to know what everyone thinks about that. Just because I think there has to be that certain point where you turn the page, and eventually you're going to hand that over to Nelson.
Mm-hmm.
Why not now? That's my question.
Yeah, if
Orlando, late March, NYCFC. It was way later, but
he started in a side without a striker, without Ayo Akinola or Josie Althor in that game
also
too.
A good point, yeah.
It wasn't the strongest TFC side that he was starting in. It was also his first career start. I'm not saying start Jaden Nelson. What I am saying is free him a little bit.
Listen, I'm right there with you, pal, man. Like, he's desperate to go 1v1 with guys. And if Nashville's going to park the bus, we want a guy that's going to go 1v1 all the time. So I'm on your side. I just, I equally understand the putting Endo on, because he has surprised us. He does have the playoff experience. He has scored some clutch goals for the team. Maybe we don't take him out behind the barn just yet.
Here's go ahead, Mitch. Go ahead.
Well, my thing too is I've been comparing this game a little bit to the Sounders MLS Cup final last year. Endo was not good in that game. He just, he's one of those players who I would like a little bit more in a counter-attacking system versus, a system against sent players. He's a good dribbler, but he's not a great beating players dribbler in the way Nelson is. I just think Nelson, I agree. I think Nelson offers something different, and that's who I'd go with. But we'll see. Again, those are kind of down the list of guys that bring off the bench. You do have Josie, and if you want to talk about experience, as much as we've certainly gone on about Josie missing the season, and he hasn't always looked that great. I'd rather have Josie on the bench than not have him at all. I mean, you look 12 playoff matches for Toronto FC. He scored 8 goals, 4 assists. That's a pretty good return. And, really, there's been no better player in playoff games for Toronto FC than Josie Altidore. I'm confident in saying that.
But you bring him on as a sub for Ayo, right? Like, I don't know if you would bring him on as a winger to play with Ayo, or you would bring him on and flip the script to a 4-2-2, 4-4-2.
You have those options. It wouldn't be my first choice, but you do have those options. And again, I think having Josie there could prove to be a difference maker in these playoffs. And who knows what Greg's been working on in Toronto in the bubble this past week. Maybe we do see Josie off the top again. I think it should be Ayo, but you'd like to have that in your locker.
I think it should be Ayo too. I also don't like the can Josie come up big one last time. We always do this to ourselves. We always sleep on Josmer. We're always like, is this going to be the end of Josie? And then he just does something ridiculous, and we're like, yep, we love him. And then 2 weeks go by, and we're like, maybe this is the end of Josie. And I don't bet against Josmer anymore.
No, that's a fair shot.
Yeah, that is a very fair shot, Will. I mean, he always saves it. He always saves it for when the lights are the brightest.
Yeah, if you guys missed that, Will said the reality is that Josie has not looked good at all this season, and he's been stop-start, but it's playoffs. That's the difference. It's playoffs, and it's a winner go home scenario. What I will say is, just based off what Greg Vanney's saying in press conferences, is he is a coach that understands the importance of having veterans on your team. And he understands the difference between having a veteran out there and having a young player out there. He has talked about, playoff games perhaps coming down to these one or two mistakes, which obviously younger players are more prone to have. So I think from Greg Vanney's approach to all of this, I know we were just talking about Tsubasa, Endo, Jaden Nelson. I think Vanney might lean towards the veteran here as opposed to the youngster, even though I personally may disagree with that just because everything in the past probably leans towards the veteran, but there's a certain unknown about this future, something that's kind of hard to wrap my finger on what I'm trying to say. It's just that I really think that in order to know what we have out there, we have to take those risks and play these young kids. And we're seeing guys around the league, 17-year-old kids around the league who are making a difference, scoring equalizers in the MLS Cup playoffs, scoring a goal in the MLS. 2 different 17-year-olds did that. And I honestly think TFC have the cream of the crop when it comes to some of these up-and-coming youngsters. So I think if those guys, I can see those guys on the field performing the way that they're doing. Why can't TFC's youngsters go out and do that? And I'm not saying go out and start these kids, but I am saying that they are options, and I think they're better options than some of the other secondary options that this team has, perhaps.
Indeed. Mitch, I think it might be time to bring on our special producer guest.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get the local agitator on here to do some MLS.
I don't actually know what he's going to do, so this is going to be fun.
Hey guys,
there we go.
How's it going?
Good. That shirt is wild. What is it? Like, it's got a white collar, yet
you don't even know. It's amazing. Yeah. It's a limited edition.
Yeah, limited of one.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into it, guys.
Let's go.
So not too surprising that yours truly has come out on top.
I didn't bring my monocle, so
as the resident expert here, I came up with 2 wins with 6 points.
Excellent.
Of the predictions. I guessed right, the Revs beating the Impact 2-1, and Minnesota, Colorado. And you guys ended up getting 0 correct.
What do you mean? No way.
What are you talking about?
That sounds made up.
I had Nashville. Yeah, that sounds totally made up.
What did you guys have?
I had Impact beating the Revs. I had Nashville beating Inter Miami on PKs.
Yeah, we're talking about scores, guys. Scores, right?
Oh, like perfect scores.
Perfect scores.
Oh, no, I got none of those.
Yeah,
0.
0 of those.
Absolute 0. Like 0 degrees Kelvin. Like
0.
Yeah. I didn't realize that it was.
Well, anyways, we're into round 2. I only have a 6-point lead here, guys. So there's still time for you guys. Okay, let's go around the horn here. Starting with Mike. Now, Philly versus New England.
I got Philly all the way here. I'm going to say 2-0 Philly.
Okay. And who do we got here? What do you think, Jeffrey?
I got Philly losing to the Revs by a score of 2-1.
Wow. Okay, Mitchell?
Jeff's just trying to make up points. I'll go Philly 2-1.
All right, sounds good. TFC Nashville.
Well, we do have our own prediction league, and I already voted.
Yeah, come on, Kev. Let's go. The Reds are taking this one home. Let's say I'm gonna go 3-1 TFC.
Whoa!
Ooh!
This is a 1-0 win team here, Mike.
Big dub. I'm calling.
Big dub.
Everybody's so happy about the 1-0 wins all season.
Yeah.
Who's up next? Jeffrey.
Me. I got 2-1 TFC.
2-1. Okay.
Yeah, I'll go
Mitchell?
2-0 TFC.
2-0.
Yep.
Damn, I want to be at Mitch's house at 6 o'clock tonight. That's a lot of positivity.
Last but not least, Seattle LAFC. Mike.
This one's tough.
I can't bet against the Sounders. Come on. It's going to be 2-1 Sounders.
Yeah.
I got 2-2 with Seattle winning in penalties. Now, do I have to actually predict the penalty score, you jerk?
No. No.
All right.
This is PK for who?
PK for the Seattle, the Rave Green. Do I
Okay.
need to do it again? We'll fight and we'll win.
All right, we got it that time, Jeff.
And
Yeah.
Mitchell?
I'll go 3-1 Sounders. Yeah, I think the Sounders just in the playoffs again.
3-1
Whoa.
against Golden Boot winner.
I want
Who's
some
not
goals
playing?
tonight.
Okay.
Okay. The correct answers are 3-1 for Philly.
Right.
TFC 1-0 as usual.
Mm-hmm.
And the Sounders 2-1.
2-1 over
LAFC.
over LAFC.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And anybody who's
I like
watching, let us know what you guys think too.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do like a whole big old review as this starts rolling along.
Well, thanks, guys.
Thank
Martin
you.
Bailey's going to be mad we had someone else's spreadsheet on the show. I hope.
Yeah. That's crazy.
But thanks so much for Kevin
so
coming
much,
on
Kevin.
and doing that for us.
You didn't notice, but he was a full kit. He had his shorts on too, and I think he shaved his legs when he previewed them earlier, and it was delicious.
Jeff, you got a rant for us?
We're almost out of time. Do you have a CanSock focus? I'd rather talk about Laren and David.
All right, let's do that then. I wanted to quickly just a little Canadian soccer corner because I think we haven't really had much time to talk about that in recent times, and nothing bigger than Jonathan David finally getting a goal after 13 scoreless matches with Lille, 4-0 win over Lorient. Overall fantastic performance. I think they've been putting him up top with this guy Youssef Yazici, who I think is going to be a big star in world soccer pretty soon. He's an incredible player. Anytime I watch Lille this season, he's the guy who stood out. He was huge against AC Milan in their win before the international break in the Europa League. But it's good to see David have some confidence again. I think that
was a hell of a goal
for him.
He was really composed on the ball in the box. That was a hell of a goal. Mostly I just want you to explain to me why Kyle Laren is worthy of my attention, because I really don't like him. And there we go, Charlie O'Connor. I want to see a Jeff Mitch bitch fight. I think his body language. Again, you told me I haven't watched him in 2 years, so please explain how he's become the best
I right
player.
in that?
Pardon?
Am I right in the fact that you haven't watched him in 2 years?
Well, I don't usually turn on a Besiktas game because, where is it on? But no, it's been a while. I think the last time I saw him live was a Canadian men's national team game at BMO. And again, his body language just drives me crazy. I can't stand number 9s that have no work rate. I think that they're being phased out of the game. That like, oh, no one's crossing to me. Oh, woe is me, just drives me mental, like hustle a little bit. And you're saying that he does all that now and I should like him. So, awesome.
Well, he doesn't even play as a number 9 anymore for Besiktas. He plays as a wide attacker, which has been an interesting switch this season ever since his time in Belgium. And, he has added a number of those dimensions to his game. He's much better defensively. He's still that threat in behind, but it usually comes from a wide position now, which means, he's almost tougher to pick up because you've already got to deal with the normal center forward at the moment. And he's a much better player at creating chances for his teammates than he's been before. And, look at the numbers. He's tied for third in the Super League in scoring this year, 6 goals in 10 matches. This is a guy that we've always known can score, but he's doing it again at a great level. So, that's kind of the other Canadian player who I'll shout out this week is Kyle Laren.
So
Good
does
chance.
he get the start over Anthony Jackson Hamel is what I'm asking.
Yeah. most definitely. It's interesting. One thing I did want to mention is Laren playing in this wide position. the first guy to ever do that was John Herdman. He got absolutely destroyed for putting Laren out wide during one of, I think Canada was playing Mexico at the Gold Cup.
I do remember that. Yeah. Oh, that was a disaster.
It's kind of funny though that this is like the second time, because I'm pretty sure it was Herdman who put Davies as a left back first too. So it seems like Herdman's slightly ahead sometimes in these tactical things, and maybe we don't give him enough credit for that.
He's absolutely a genius there. Mitch, I got to run. I'm gonna do a little TV hit. So
CP24, everyone,
CP24, you guys can turn on like 12:50. But if these guys are still going, make sure you guys definitely don't tune out of here.
No, I mean, we were going to end early on account of that. I want to watch you on the big screen.
But before you finish, I do want you to mention that Voyagers thing. So
thank you.
I will head out of here. I'll see you guys later, and let's go. Come on, you Reds.
Yeah. Big assist from Michael Singh. He leaves there. Excellent stuff from him. I did want to mention the Voyageurs. They are doing a survey as we build towards the 2026 World Cup. They want to get your ideas on, supporting Canada soccer in general, and how they can better, I guess, create their organization and strategic plan as we build towards that home World Cup. Because obviously, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for Canadian soccer. We all know it. The spotlight that will be on the national team program will never be brighter, and that goes on and off the field. So big opportunity to get your input in there for, how we're going to support this team and again, going forward.
Yep, it's not CanSoc without the Voyagers. So
no,
get in there, get your thoughts heard. It looks like they're gearing up for a rethink in a lot of ways, and some of that's necessitated by the weirdness that is 2020, and some of that I think has been on their docket for a while. And I'm looking forward to seeing how it grows. And everybody should get a Canada scarf because they're awesome.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we will. I promise Kristen will have someone on from the Voyageurs at some point to give you a little more insight into their organization. Obviously, that'll probably happen after the Toronto FC season. But yeah, it's just about playoff time. What is it? 5 hours away until Toronto FC kick off to open the 2020 MLS Cup playoffs. So we'll wrap things up there, but the countdown's now on. As we said, Michael is now on CB24. So if you're not somehow tired of him yet, you can switch over there and give him a watch. Thanks for Kevin for hopping on there and giving us an eye exam test in terms of trying to read that spreadsheet.
Jeez. Oh no!
There it is again. Love that. Thanks to Sophia, of course, for all the work done in the background. And
Mitch, episode 20.
I know. Yeah, we've made it 20 episodes. Most of them have been cohesive and pretty solid. So thanks to all of you for listening and watching, and enjoy the match, everyone.
Let's go Reds!